Okay, we are continuing in chapter 13. We're on page 36, and we're going to go up a few lines to where we actually read a little bit of this yesterday, but we're going to be starting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 lines from the bottom of the page 36, 3 words in. Va'af gam zois. What the Alter Rebbe has been doing here is he's showing us that there are different levels even in the Benoni himself. In other words, it's not just the tzaddik, it's not just the Rasha that have levels, but the Benoni himself has different levels. The first level we talked about in chapter 13 is a person who is being challenged by his nefesh habahamias. And alone he would not be able to survive. Hashem comes in, helps him out, he's able to add a little bit of light into his nefesh elokis. The nefesh elokis then overpowers the nefesh habahamias, and he is set. Level number 2. A person who is sitting and learning all day. So you could think, oh, I'm sitting and learning all day. So if that's the case, so he doesn't have the same type of challenges from the nefesh habahamias, and therefore that's really what we were referring to in Parak Yud Beis in chapter 12. That Hamayach Shalat Alev. So as soon as there's something comes up into his heart, his brain is right on top of it. Right? That was the second level. Now we're talking about a third level. What about a Beinoni that is in the level of the way he was when he was davening? Now we're really talking. Now the fire is burning very, very strongly in his heart with this love for Hashem. And it's not only that he doesn't need Hashem's help over here to come and bring extra light in to help out his nefesh elokis. Not only that, here, it's Mayach Shalat Alev, but here, in this last situation, he doesn't even experience the Nefesh habahamias expressing itself at all. That's the difference. In all three of these cases, though, and all the other levels that come somewhere in between, right, at the end of the day, this person is still a Beinoni. He is not a tzaddik. And therefore, we're going to use this information to be able to answer a question that we asked on the first page. The question we asked on the first page is, Rabba said about himself, Kagon ana Beinoni. He said, Rabba said, it's like I am a Beinoni. And Abaya said to him, Lo shabik mar chai lechol beria. If that's true, you're not allowing anything else to live. Like, how could you possibly say that? You're the greatest person alive today. Right? And like we said over there, Delo pasik pumi migirsa, he doesn't even stop speaking words of Torah. The Malach HaMavis lo yachol lishlot bo, that the Malach HaMavis, the angel of death, couldn't even control him. So how could he possibly be saying about himself that he's a Beinoni? So now we're going to get to this point, because we're going to see that the Beinoni that is davening, the Beinoni that is on fire with his love for Hashem, is a person that is not experiencing any negativity from his nefesh habahamias, because the nefesh habahamias is just overwhelmed with the fire of love that he has for Hashem. But, having said that, the nefesh habahamias has not been vanquished. It's still there. It's mamish still there. It's just that since he's right now in this state of davening, so then you don't feel it. So Rabba, we're going to see as we read inside, that Rabba was holding on this level, that it was as though he was davening the whole day long. That was the level that he had. He was having such an intense love for Hashem that he said, oh, look, I'm like a Beinoni. This is the way I am. Now it makes sense, his statement from that we brought in the first page. So let's look inside and let's read a little bit of this in the words of the Alter Rebbe. V'af gam zois hapam Eino rak shlita v'memshal levad. His time is not just that it's only in control. K'dichsiv malom alum yamatz, right? That it's when one side, like we said yesterday, when one side is up, the other side is down, and when the other side is up, the other side is down, right? That was referring to the general history of Yaakov and Esav, right? And how their peoples over the course of the history of the world is going to be this way. And like Rashi says, right, over there, right? That's what Rashi's talking about. That when this one goes up, the other one falls down. When this one goes up, etc. Shenefesh alokis misametzes v'misgaveris ala nefesh bahamias. Because why? Because the nefesh alokis is getting stronger and stronger, yeah, and winning out over the nefesh bahamias. Where b'makor gvuros, from the source of its gvuros, shehi bina, which is bina, lizboinim b'gedulas Hashem, ein so baruch hu, to meditate on and contemplate on the greatness of Hashem. We talked about this yesterday, to give birth for this ava, aza, burning love, a strong, powerful love to Hashem. Kirish be'esh, that is burning like a fire. Bechala yamini, on the right side of his heart, shebelibo. So then he's able to bend his sitra acher. Then he's able to bend the sitra acher shebechal hasmoli. He's able to bend the left side of his heart, the negative side, the negative energy that's coming from the left side of his heart. Aval lo nizbata legamre bebeinoni, but it hasn't been completely destroyed in the Benoni. It has not been completely nullified. Where is that? Ella bitzadik. That level, the concept of the nefesh bahamias being completely nullified, is specifically in a tzaddik. Shenamar bo, like it says about him, v'libi chal b'kirbi. If you remember, also back to the first chapter, on the second page, we quote David HaMelech saying about himself, King David saying about himself, that he doesn't have a nefesh bahamias because it's been totally, it's been totally destroyed through his fasting. Right, that his heart is hollow, so to speak, in his inside. Right, that he is disgusted by the evil, and he hates it with a complete hatred. And complete disgust, or etc., or but not in a complete hatred, like we said before. Right, where do we say this? In chapter 10. Right, so now what we're referring to is like this. There are two basic levels of a tzaddik. A tzaddik v'toivlo, or otherwise known as a tzaddik gamor, or a tzaddik v'ralo, otherwise known as a tzaddik she'eno gamor. Right? This we talked about in a big discussion in chapter 10. How do we know the difference between the two? In other words, if you're telling me that his nefesh bahamis, his animal soul, has been nullified, so what's the difference between A and B? they look the same, right? From the outside, what he's doing, even the Benoni looks the same as the tzaddik. So what are you going to see is going to be the difference between a tzaddik gamor and a tzaddik she'eno gamor. A tzaddik that's a complete tzaddik and a tzaddik that's not a complete tzaddik. If from the outside in, even the Benoni looks the same, so what's the difference between these two? So what the Alter Rebbe had told us over there is that it's hard to tell. However, there is evil still in him. But how do we see that evil? So the way it's described in Tanya is how much of a disgust and hatred he has towards the pleasures of this world. In other words, things of this world that are in any way blocking the light of Torah, is it such an extent that, of course, he's not interested in that, he's not going to about to do any of this, that's for sure. But how much does he care about it? How much does it bother him? You know, like if you have, example, right? If you have a best friend, and this best friend, you love this best friend so much, and this other person is really being difficult to your best friend, how do you feel towards that other person? Well, you could say, well, look, it's between the two of them, I don't have anything to do with it. But when you love someone so much, that other person is going to bother you so much. Because why? Because you love this person, and he's giving him a hard time. So all of a sudden, what's going to... You can't stand even to talk about him. You can't look at him. It makes you so crazy, right? Why? Not because you hate him. Because you love him so much. You love the first person so much. The same thing here with the tzaddik. A tzaddik, based on the love that he has for Hashem, if it's a complete love, tzaddik gamor, that's what it means, complete, right? So then it's a tzaddik v'toivlo. A tzaddik, it's all good in his inside, meaning that he has such a love for Hashem that he is disgusted by things that are in any way blocking Hashem, or in any way against Hashem in any manner. A tzaddik she'eino gamor, a tzaddik who's not a complete tzaddik, right? So therefore, his love for Hashem is not complete. If his love for Hashem is not complete, that's an indication that he has still a tzaddik v'ralo, that he still has some ra. Now the Zohar said about him, shahara shebo kofef l'toiv, that the evil inside of him, these are the words of the Zohar, is bent to the good. It's not like the ra is going to come out. The evil is not going to come out at all. No, it's too little. As the Alter Rebbe said over there, maybe it's 1 in 60, maybe it's 1 in 100, maybe 1 in 1,000, whatever. Right? It's minuscule. But the fact that he doesn't have that complete disgust for something that is blocking Hashem in any way is an indication that there's still a little bit of not good in there. So that's what he says over here. Let's go back and read those words again. Right? The Beinoni, even this last level of Benoni, who looks so incredible, and he's not having the negative thoughts coming up into his brain and all that, right? Because he's mamish on fire. But you can't say that his nefesh bahamis is completely nullified. Ella, only b'tzadik, only by a tzadik, shenamar, like the pasuk says about him, v'libi chal b'kirbi, v'hu mo'os bira, he's disgusted by the evil, v'soino, and he hates it. B'tachlis asina v'hamius, in an absolute hatred and an absolute disgust for it. That's a tzaddik. Gomor, complete love for Hashem. Tzaddik v'toivlo. Those are two names saying the exact same thing. Oh, possibly, if it's not that level of tzaddik, shelo b'tachlis asina. He doesn't like it, but he doesn't have a complete hatred for it. Kenal, like we said above in chapter 10. Aval b'Beinoni, but in the Beinoni, who derech mashal ka'adam shiyashan. The Beinoni is like a person that's sleeping. Shiyachol lichzor v'liyor, like we said in the last chapter, that it's able to come back and wake up. Mishinasa, from its sleep. Nefesh bahamis is there, and it's able to come back and wake up. Kachara b'Beinoni, similar. The evil in the Benoni, hu kiyashan. It's like sleeping b'chal smoli, and the left side of the heart. When? B'shas kriya shema v'tefillah. Dafka, during the times of saying Shema in the morning, shacharis, or in the tefillah, i.e. the Shemona Esrei. At that times, he's in a state of rapture with Hashem. So there's nothing to talk about. Right? There's no evil that's going to come out. There's not. It's just overwhelmed. Because why? Shaliba boyer, that his heart is burning. It's bursting out of him with his fire, but Hashem, with his love of Hashem. But afterwards, it can come back. That's the way it is. Now we can go back, like I said in the introduction to the class, we can go back to the first page of the Tanya, where we ask a simple question. How could Rabba say about himself? Rabba, one of the greatest Amarayim, the head of the generation, how could he say about himself that he was a Beinoni? Doesn't make any sense. Right? It says about him, the angel of death was trying to track him down and he couldn't get him at all. Because why? Because lo pasuk pumya megirsa. He was constantly saying words of Torah that the angel of death couldn't even come close to him. He couldn't take him. Right? He had to make a whole situation take place, and now he stopped learning for 1 second, boom! At that moment he was able to take him. Right? That doesn't sound to me like a Beinoni. Right? That just sounds like someone out of this world. Yet, he said about himself that he's a Beinoni. Now, he's not a liar. Right? He's obviously a very true person. He would never say something that is totally, out of the, ridiculous. That's not going to happen. So now we could say, even though he never stopped saying words, his mouth never stopped moving, of Torah Hashem, right, and with the Torah of God, right, Yom Balayla, v'chafitza, v'chashika, v'chuka, v'nefesh hokarka l'Hashem, right, with every point of him. Right, chafitza, v'chashika, v'chuka, v'nefesh hokarka. Right, for just complete all these different points of just saying how he was really reaching out to Hashem to capture him in any way. right? That's the way he was. Ba'ava Rabba. Ava Rabba is one of the highest levels of love that a person could possibly have, as he discussed earlier, right, in Tanya. Right? This tremendous feelings for Hashem. Kibishas kriyishma b'tefillah. Right? Like it would be like in the middle of his davening. So if that's the case, v'nidma be'einav kebeinoni. K'mam mispal kol hayom. Right? So therefore, we can now explain it. And we could say that now it makes a lot of sense. It was like, in his mind, it was like he was on the level of a Benoni that davened all day long. Just like the Benoni when he's in the middle of davening, and he's on this tremendous high, right? That's the way Rabba looked at himself. And that's why he was able to say about himself that he was a Beinoni. K'mayim razal halavai she'ispal adam kol hayom kulo. That halavai should daven the whole day long, it says in the Gemara. Meaning that be in such a state of rapture to Hashem that doesn't give any space for the nefesh bahamis to come out. And that's the point that we're bringing out here, that we could see that there is this tremendous range of what a Beinoni looks like. From the person who he's not even in a state where he's mayach shalat alev, that he needs Hashem's help, to the state that he's just completely enraptured by God. You have all these different levels. But at the end of the day, he is a Beinoni. And therefore, he is the Superman. He is the guy that is in total control of himself all day long, 24/7. That's who he is. Okay? So this leaves us by the colon. At the end, we'll have probably one more class where we'll go through the last piece of chapter 13 of Tanya. Okay? That's it for today.